Okay, so today we are going to be talking about histograms, but in order to do histograms, we have to understand frequency tables. So we're going to start with our little mini cheat sheet of notes, and then we'll go into the other notes, and then you guys will have your practice problems today. Same thing will apply. You'll have to show the sub this page to get the next page, and then you'll have to show her the next page, or show them the next page, and then you will have to, you'll get your practice problems, and you'll do the same thing. You'll upload it to Canvas for me. If you have any questions, please send an email, but let's go ahead and get started. So frequency is the number of times something occurs. All right. And we've seen frequency before. You'll see that we deal with frequency tables. Interval is all the values between two given endpoints. So frequency table, see if I can highlight correctly, and histogram shows how many pieces of data occurs within the intervals or the ranges. They're helpful to try and gather a general idea about your data, and when there are too many data points to graph each point individually. So this is a big part because you're actually doing like a range of data points rather than a bar graph. So it's going to look similar to a bar graph, but it's not going to be exactly a bar graph. So our statistical question that we're looking at is our statistical question, and that is where you're going to get lots of different answers, which we did, obviously. How many minutes did you spend on homework last night? So the very first thing that we need to do is we're going to need to look at our data and our question, and we're going to have to come up with a title for our table. So take a minute. Look at your question. Again, it says, how many minutes did you spend on homework last night? So the title of your frequency table should be minutes on homework. Okay, it's just a generic, title. And then from here, we're going to go through. So our interval for the first one is 0 to 14 minutes. So we're going to go through our data set. And you can put it in order from least to greatest if you want. You don't have to, because ultimately this is going to be in order, however you need. That is 100% a preference, and that is up to you. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to cross off. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are 4 numbers between 0 and 14 in my data set, which is 10, 0, 0, and 7. So I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to write the actual number of tallies I have. And I'm going to do this for 15 to 29, 30 to 44, 45 to 60. So we're going to go through the next one. And that time I came up with 8. So I'm going to do 8 tallies, and I'm going to do frequency of 8. All right, 30 to 44. I have 6. Let me check again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And the last one is 45. I have 1, 2. All right, so now that I have my frequency table completed, I've got my tallies, I've got the actual number, I'm going to shift my title over here, minutes on homework, and then across here, I'm going to write my range, or my intervals. So I'm going to do 0 to 14, 15 to 29, 30 to 44, and 45 to 60. Now, obviously, it's a small thing, so we probably should have squished them closer together, but it is what it is. And then I have to get to my highest number of 8. So I'm just going to go up by ones, starting with 0, All right, so now, again, this is similar to a bar graph, but it's not a bar graph. Your lines are actually going to touch. So my first one is 4, so I'm going to go from here to there, and that is my range for 0 to 14 minutes spent. The next one is 8, so I'm actually going to go all the way to the top of my chart. The next one is 30 to 44, which is 6, so I'm going to go here to here, and again, we want it to be equal, but it's hard to do when we're doing it like this in such a small space. And then the last one is going to be 2. So there's your frequency table, there's your histogram. So go ahead, you're going to want to glue this in, or you're going to want to show that to the sub. Then once you get your next set of notes, glue it in when you get back to your seat. All right, this is going to be the next set of notes that we are going to be working on. Let me get a little bit closer for you guys so you can actually see what I'm writing. Sorry about that. All right, so again, we're going to be talking about histograms. All right, so a histogram shows data in intervals or ranges. They are similar to bar graphs, but the bars are not spaced apart. So this is important. Your bars must touch. They are similar to dot plots because they represent the overall spread. Remember, spread is also known as range. And shape of the data. So for examples, you can talk about decades. You can use for histograms for that. Age ranges, lots of different things, but that's just one of the few. All right, so we're going to look at our data. We're going to answer some questions. So it says, data from the National ACT exam is shown in the histogram at the right. How many scores were included in the graph? Okay, so how many scores? Well, how do you figure that out? How do you think you have to figure that out? All right, so ultimately you're going to be counting the total of each one of these. So we'll leave these two alone for right now. And if you notice, there's little teeny tiny tick marks. So we'll go to this one. This one's probably the easiest one though. This is 34. This one is, zoom in. One looks like it's 28. This one looks to be 16. This is 17. This is 3, 1, and 1. So if I did that correctly, and we add those up, you should end up with a total of 100. Check my math just to make sure. And did my math, and it looks like I got 100. All right, so it says list the number of scores for each range. So for 1 to 5, we have 1 score. You gotta focus. Okay, for 6 to 10, we have 1 score. For 11 to 17, we have 11 to 15, we have 17. 16 to 20, we have 34. 21 to 25, we have 28. 26 to 30, we have 16. And 31 to 35, we have 3. All right, so that's using your histogram to find some information. All right, now let's look at some questions down here. If I can get this to focus. All right, so the first one is, what is the range of scores which range of scores represents 17% of the data? All right, so which range do you think is 17%? Well, I'll give you a hint. These are all percentages of this whole thing equals 100, right? So this one's kind of easy because for 17%, it's 11 to 15. So our answer would be ACT scores 11 to 15. All right, number 2, it says what percent of the scores are included in the range 21 to 25? All right, and again, this is our percent, so makes it pretty easy, 28%. Number 3, it says what 2 ACT score ranges make up more than 60% of the sample? All right, and for that one, you just got to add them together. So you should get the 16 to 20 and the 21 to 28, because if I do 34 plus 28, that gives me what? 2, carry my 1, gives me 60, 62. I can't math, it's too late. All right, so that's going to give us ACT scores 16 to 20 and 21 to 25. All right, and then the last one is asking the histogram is symmetrical. What does this tell you about the median and the mean? In which interval would you predict the mean to be found? All right, so if it's symmetrical, which it is, because it kind of goes up the same, kind of goes down the same. So if it's symmetrical, we know that the mean and the median are close together. Okay, and then where do you think the average would be? So the average is probably going to fall in this one because it's mostly in the middle. It's also the highest. We don't know, I mean, we could figure out the average if you want to add them all up, so on and so forth, but that's a lot. So we're going to say the mean is likely in 16 to 20. Okay? And then number 5, it says label each of the statements below as true or false. Correct any false statements. So it says the number of scores between 1 to 5 and 26 to 30 is equal to the number of scores of 11 to 15. All right, so is this true or false? Well, 1 to 5, there's 1, plus 26 to 30, that's going to be 16, equals 17. So is that true? And 11 to 15 equals 17. So that is a true statement. All right, the number of scores between through 16 to 20 is double that of 11 to 15. So 16 to 20 is 34. And if I multiplied 17 times 2, I end up with 34. So that is also true. There are an equal number of scores between 11 to 15 and 26 to 30. Okay, so 11 to 15 is 17, and 26 to 30 is 16. So that's not true, right? Because they don't equal. So that is false. All right, so what we would say is 1 to 5 and 6 to 10 have the same number because they both have 1 in them. All right, so that is using your histogram, your data, to answer questions. So now we're going to go over here and we're going to give it a shot. So this is the local library surveyed its patrons based on their age. Use the histogram below to answer questions 6 through 9. So I'm going to give you a second to look at that graph. All right. So it says, determine the total number of library people surveyed. All right, so again, you're going to need to go here and make sure that it's increasing by ones technically, but the big lines are 5. So this is 8, this is 15, 6, 2, 7, and 12, I believe. All right, and then let's add them up. All right, so there were 50 people. And that is 8 plus 15 plus 6 plus 2 plus 7 plus 12 equals 50. All right, how many patrons are younger than 30? Okay, so we're not including 30 to 39. They have to be younger. So we're going to do 15 plus 8 is going to give me 23. So there are 23 people. All right, based on the information in the graph, which two age ranges are responsible for exactly 40% of the people? All right, so I'm going to give you a minute to look at that. Remember, 40%. So I'm going to go with 10 to 19, which equals 8, and 60 to 69, which equals 12. So these two added together gives me 20. All right, that is 40% of the people. And then the last one, this is based on the information in the graph. 30% of the library people are in which age group? All right, and again, 30%. That is going to be, 20 to 29, which is 15 people. All right, and these are word problems, so I should have been annotating all along. That is my fault. Total number. All right, slide over to the next one. It says a group of runners chart their distance total for the week. Use the histogram below to answer questions 10 through 12. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, do 5, 5, 10, 8, 12. All right, it says how many runners run between 3.0 and 4.9 miles per week, okay? So 3.0, so we have 8 plus 12, which equals 20 runners. Okay, the next one, number 11, says how many runners run less than 4 miles each week? Okay, less than 4 miles. So anything less than 4 miles, so that's going to actually be all of these. So I'm going to do 5 plus 5 plus 10 plus 8, which gives me 28. So 28 runners run less than 4 miles each week. And number 12 says which of the following statements best represents the data above? A, 25% of runners surveyed run 4 to 4.9 miles each week. 1/3 of runners surveyed run 2 to 2.9 miles each week. 1/5 of runners run 3 to 3.9 miles each week. And the number of runners surveyed who run less than 1 mile is equal to the number of runners surveyed who run 3 to 3.9 miles. Well, we definitely know that one's not right. So the correct answer for this one is C. So I did forget, so I'm going to go back through here and going to annotate. And then we do need to, what I do with my markers. So histograms show intervals or range. They're similar to bar graphs, but the bars are not separated, so they must touch. And it's similar to dot plots because it's a representation of the spread and the shape. All right, So then you're done with this. You're going to take this up to the sub, show them, get your practice problems, and then you're going to glue this into your notebook and get started on your practice problems. Please make sure that you are submitting your practice problems to today so that you get credit for them. If you have any questions, please send me an email, and I will see you guys on Monday. Bye.